Thank you, everyone, for coming. I mean, we've had a few technical problems and delaying, but not for very long. Our typically we begin with Judy Alden, our chapter president, providing some background information and announcements. But she's having some technical difficulties now, so we'll delay that feature. But I do want to allow the maximum time for the program. So I'm going to just introduce our speaker for the day, and we will begin. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Larry Medwetsky. Until his recent retirement, Dr. Medwetsky served as professor in Gallaudet University's Doctor of Audiology program and head of Gallaudet's Peer Mentor Training Certificate program, which incidentally is in that capacity as I knew him best. Prior to coming to Gallaudet in 2012, he served as Director of Audiology and Vice President of Clinical Services at the Rochester Hearing and Speech Center for some 20 years. While now retired, Dr. Medwetsky remains very active, among other things, serving as HLAA's professor, professional advisor, in audiologists. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Medwetsky. I think we've sort of agreed that if you can hold questions until the end of his presentation, you can put them in the chat box so you don't forget. Put them in the chat box as they occur to you so you don't forget. But if there are questions that really should be answered, immediately in the course of the conversation, I think that we can also handle that, as well. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Medwetsky. Thank you for being here with us.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just going to change my view for a second. And I should be the main person. And then I'm going to share my screen. And then I will just, okay. And let me just do that. Okay. So today, well, before I even begin, I just also want to mention that I'm also hard of hearing, and I've been hard of hearing since the age of 3, when I got scarlet fever. And so I've run the gamut of being a child with hearing loss, being in the early 1960s in a self-contained class for children with hearing loss, and it's typically a typical school, neighborhood school. And then gone the gamut of the insecurities of feeling with hearing loss and feeling different than others, and then having no role models at that time because it was so early in the 60s and 70s. And so going to university, etc. And so ultimately, I did get a degree in audiology in Montreal McGill, and then I was an educational audiologist for 5 years, etc. And then you heard the rest. But it's because, it's these endeavors as to why it's so important for me to talk with, to meet with, to present to individuals about hearing loss, and why I was so involved in the peer mentoring program, because more than a physical issue, it's also a psycho-emotional issue. And so I want people to always have the information, but also the confidence to do what's best for them, which is if they have a hearing loss, to get whatever devices meet their needs and strategies, and to always try to be confident and assertive in getting those needs met. So today I'm going to talk about recent advances in hearing devices. Primarily it'll involve discussion about what hearing aid, but it'll also involve cochlear implants as well, and some other technologies too. My hope is that for many of you, this will be new information. And I know for many of you who will go to the HLA convention in the end of June, you'll get to learn a lot of this information too. But my hope is that today will prep you so that you'll better understand the technology. So you'll be either better able to ask more in-depth questions when you're there, or if there are vendors of any of this technology, you'll be able to ask directly. But my goal is to provide you with as much information about the exciting advances that have really happened in the past few years that are truly making a difference in nowadays. And so again, I'm Larry Medwetsky. I was a full professor. I was also a chair and a clinic director, an interim clinic director at Gallaudet University. So in terms of background to this topic, hearing aids have truly undergone these amazing changes since the early days. Now, I say the 50s and 60s, hearing aids have been around since the 1930s when they weighed like 3 pounds, like carbon compound transistors, and they were very heavy. And even in the 50s, 60s, most of them were what I called analog hearing aids that that analyze sound rather than digital. And they were body hearing aids that typically wore in the chest at that time. And then now hearing aids are digital, which means computerized. All of them are computerized now. They're utilizing what I'm sure you've read about in the newspapers and seen on TV, artificial intelligence. That is being used very much so in newer hearing aids. And they're all different sizes and different styles, but for those who want, they can be as small as a completely contained hearing aid within a canal, but that's not the most popular type, and I'll mention later what the most popular type of hearing aid is nowadays. So in the presentation, I'm going to review many of these wonderful, incredible advances, and and of which many of the same features have also been incorporated into cochlear implants for those who wear cochlear implants to know about those too. So some of the advances have been ongoing for the last 15, 20 years. So I want to start off with the one that once digital hearing aid came into the fore, what features they allowed to come into being. So one is noise reduction. And noise reduction basically refers to eliminating background noise. Now, when they first came out, people thought if you could use this technique, determine that there's noise in the environment and eliminate that, then that would improve speech intelligibility, the ability to understand speech. But that they found was not the case. When you do noise reduction, it's more for comfort. Because when you eliminate noise and people are talking, you're also eliminating speech at the same time. And so that did not improve. But there are situations where you may go into a very loud environment and there is no one talking. For example, working in a factory or going in a very noisy auditorium where no one talker talking, but hundreds of people talking, and all you hear is noise. So in that case, the goal is in noisy settings or no speech present, the hearing aid reduces the amplification and in turn improves comfort. And when I say comfort, not only at that period of time, but when you're exposed to loud noise for many hours, by the time when you take your hearing aids off, you'll notice that your head is buzzing. It's like your head has been overwhelmed by the noise. So that just improves comfort. And so, as I say, the goal is to avoid what's called auditory fatigue. A feature that's been incorporated and gotten better and better, especially in the past couple of years, is wind noise. Wind noise occurs, for example, on a windy day when you're walking, the wind is rushing over the hearing aids, or you're running, or perhaps you might be in a car which with open windows. So often, for example, wind days or running or riding a bicycle, the wind used to flow over the microphones. It's still, and so when it goes over the microphones, and because the microphones in a hearing aid are so small, it would create noisy turbulence that people without hearing aid were not hearing, but we were, and that just made it so much harder to hear other people. But now hearing aids can suppress the sound of wind noise such that it won't interfere at all with your ability to hear other individuals. That's been done like with the microphones are now covered by microphone covers. So the wind, instead of flowing over the microphones, are flowing over these like plastic covers that cover the microphones. There's also software that's been incorporated into the hearing aid to reduce any residual wind noise that these covers may not have eliminated. So that allows you to really, like if you like golf, to be on a golf course and hear people instead of hearing the noise, or if you're running or etc. An important aspect that allowed me and many other individuals to truly benefit from hearing aids, and I'm talking to those of you who may have had hearing aids for the last 20, 30 years at least, is acoustic or sound feedback reduction. So that's the whistling sound we used to hear in our hearing aids. And basically what would happen is whether if you had ear mold, and ear molds over time, about within like a year or year and a half, they shrink because of the sweat, etc., over time. And the sound that would go pick up in the microphone of the hearing aid get amplified, rather than going to the ear canal, to the eardrum, and then hear it, much of the sound would escape. And then the sound would get picked up by the microphone again, and then it would be a loop, and then you would hear whistling. And it could be that, or where it could be the ear mold shrinking. It could be that you had a lot of wax in your ear, and that sound that escaped would just cause that whistling. And then, if you heard it, you would reduce the volume on a hearing aid because you didn't want to hear the whistling. Or if you had a hearing loss like I do, I have a severe profound hearing loss in the mid to high frequencies. I didn't hear the whistling, and people would tell me. I would feel, kind of embarrassed, and I'd reduce it. But that meant I couldn't hear at the level I needed to. So with sophisticated software algorithms that were implemented in the hearing aids, oh, sorry, that's there. With these algorithms, and also what you now can do is a receiver is the speaker. That's where the sound comes out of the hearing aid so that you can hear. And those receivers or speakers, little loudspeakers, used to be in the hearing aid itself, which meant that the hearing aid the receiver was right next to the microphone, and that made it the path between the sound much closer in distance and result in that feedback. But by now putting a receiver in the ear canal itself, you now have a bigger difference between the mic on the hearing aid and the receiver being in the canal. And so that difference can also reduce feedback. So the combination of computer software and being able to separate the receiver to place it into the ear canal, we now can better cancel feedback in almost all cases. And by doing that, it allows you to get to the hearing aid settings that have been made for you so that you can hear in the way you want and need to. So, and also by being able to place the receiver in the ear canal, it allows the hearing aid to get smaller. So hearing aids are now much smaller. My hearing aid that I wear now is more than half the size that I wore to a hearing aid from 20 years ago, just because of that. And I'm going to show you some pictures of this in a little bit. So the next aspect is called automatic directional microphones. When I first wore hearing aids, all hearing aids only had one microphone on in the hearing aid, and that microphone had to pick up all the sound around you. And you either had a choice of what was called omnidirectional, omni meaning complete circle. So that one microphone either picked up sound all around you, but that would be a problem if you're trying to hear someone, but there's noise behind you. So both of them would go into the same mic, making it harder to hear. Now, in some cases, you could have what called not an omnidirectional microphone, but a directional microphone. But the problem with a directional microphone, which means that it could pick up the front, sound in the front better than in the back. The problem is meaning like it focused on the sound front. That could help in noisy settings to hear someone in front of you and not behind you. But the problem, what happens if you're in a car and someone's trying to talk to you in the back seat and you can't hear them because the microphones are facing in front. But then about, I think, 10, 15 years ago at least, hearing aid companies started putting two microphones in. And so it allowed flexibility. And so it could allow you to amplify in front or behind. But you had to do it yourself with program. But now you have what I call automatic directional microphones. So as I said early on, directional mics enhance speech only if the speech was directly in front of the listener, but it would cancel noise from the back and sides. And that was a major problem for me because my left ear is better than the right. And if I'm walking with someone, like my wife at the time, or my children, or my friends, because my left ear is better, I couldn't hear them as well as I wanted because the hearing aid microphones were trying to amplify in front, but I couldn't hear the side. Or I couldn't hear, like when I'm driving my car, my children were in the back. So that was a problem then. But now with software, you can allow hearing aids and cochlear implants as well to first determine what is speech and what is noise. They have very different characteristics. And then the software, once it determines what is speech, it will shift the amplification characteristics to where the speech source is. So if someone's on the side of you, on your left or to right, it'll amplify the left or right more than any other angle. So it would cut down noise in front of you because the person's on your right. Or if the person's on your left, it'll cut down the noise behind or on the other side. So it shifts automatically, making it easier to hear people regardless where they are talking from relative to you. So as I said, under direction of software, the hearing aid to cochlear implant search environment determines the primary speech signal. Then it will adjust the input from the two, and some hearing aids actually have even three microphones. So they focus on the speech while decreasing the noise behind them. So that's automatic directional microphone. Again, they've been around for a while, but I thought it's important for you to know about them, but also it's getting better. So in the past year or two, it's even better than it was before, much more precise. So here's an example of adaptive directionality. So here is a couple or husband and wife or two colleagues talking to each other. And the orange like bars there is indicating that sound is coming from this person or to their natural, or the man who's talking and radiating so this person can hear. And then everything behind the people there, it would be like noise because that would be when you have like 3 or 4 people that talking at the same time, it begins to resemble noise. And so the hearing aids would amplify, like a person in front of them as they're talking and cut out behind because it would recognize just the person, the speech, the primary speech signal, everything behind would be noise. And then here's another example, like if a person directly in front, you see the two arrows with a narrow beam. So I don't know if you can see, but in the gray, it's indicating that it will primarily amplify sounds that are occurring maybe if you think of a circle 30 up to 30 degrees to the right, 30 degrees to the left, but basically anything in front of a person. Now you see a woman and a child walking. To hear them and to notice that, oh, some people are talking, the beam gets wider. The ability of the microphone to pick up speech is in a wider range. And so that gets picked up. And then as another person walks away even further, the range gets even further. So it's adapting its ability by analyzing where speech is in the environment and shaping the range or the angle at which microphones are picking up speech. So hopefully everything is clear, but that's an example of adaptive directionality, adapting to the environment and then directing the microphone as to what angle the speech should be picked and up and where the noise should be attenuated, where in the environment it should be cut out. So now we're going to talk about hearing system features. Now I'm going to begin talking about things that have happened, some of these just this year alone. These may not be your, I don't know, sexy kind of features, but they make a tremendous difference. One of the things that have happened is called the innovative placement of microphone, where you place a microphone on the hearing aid or the design. So a few hearing aid companies have focused on innovative placement of mics, or they've changed the shape of the hearing aid to enhance or improve what's called the speech to noise ratio. Speech to noise ratio means how loud is the speech, how loud is the noise. When you're a hard of hearing individual, you truly want the speech to be much louder than noise. So you look at the speech level and noise, and the greater the difference, the more positive it is and the easier to hear. And so now just doing this improved by 2 decibels enhancement, improved speech noise by 2 dB. And you might say 2 decibels is not very much. But when people are saying sentences, because of the context, 2 decibels is equivalent to about a 24% improvement in understanding. So even that much can improve our ability to follow other people, very importantly. So that's a general aspect. Now, there are 6 major companies in the world, besides those now making over-the-counter hearing aids. Resound is one hearing aid company, and it produces their latest model hearing aid is called the Marie, or microphone and receiver in the ear. That's what it stands for. So even though you might say Marie, it's microphone and the ampersand or and receiver in the ear canal. So the Resound Marie, in addition to the 2 microphones that are on the top of the hearing aid, like most other hearing aids have 2 microphones there, this is the only company right now that has placed a microphone in the ear canal right next to the receiver. So they're both in the ear canal, and I'm going to share with you why they did that and why it helps. Oh, that shouldn't be like that, sorry. Placement in the ear allows the pinna, that is the outer ear that you see. And let me give a little background. A lot of people, you may see people before they ever get hearing aid cup their ear like this. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but they do, people who have a mild hearing loss do that. And by doing that, you actually cause the sound to go into the ear canal. But it also does something else when you do that. And we found out through research in the last 10, 15 years that the ear actually for the higher frequencies will actually pick up sound from the front much better than from behind it. So when sound goes this way, it actually gets picked up, and then sound behind gets dropped off. So what that allows a person to do, let's say someone talking, your eyes are closed and someone talking from in front of you and another person talks behind you, the ear can, by having this feature of picking up sound better from the front than behind and introducing a little time delay, can actually help you determine if someone talking from front or behind. So for example, if you had no pinner, you would not know where they were in terms of being front or behind. So it's important for being able to localize sound, not only from front and behind you, but also up and down. So the ear does a few things. It boosts the higher frequencies, the intensity, but it helps you better localize where sound is. So for example, if you have 2 people talking at the same time and the right and left ears are participating well, you can actually separate the 2 people and know and better be able to, in your brain, be able to separate the 2 sound sources and then allow your brain to be able to focus on one person and the other. But that occurs best when the sound is entering the ear canal. The problem is when you have the microphone on top of the hearing aid, you do not take advantage of the pinna effect, because it's the pinna channeling the sound wave into the ear canal that boosts the energy somewhat in the high pitches and allows you to localize sound. So when we typically wear behind the ear hearing aid, we're not able to localize sound as well or benefit from the extra boost in the high frequencies. So what Resound has done is by placing the microphone in the ear canal itself, it improved the decibel signal to noise ratio by about 2 decibels, and it improved localization somewhat. So here you see an example for those with a mild hearing loss. They have what's called a dome that goes into the ear canal. And then they have like this rubber tip here that goes into the dome. Then the receiver that converts the sound that became like digitized, and then it creates a background sound wave and goes out the dome. But here it's added the microphone. So the microphone is connected with the receiver. So I'm going to be saying in a second, but in addition to the 2 microphones on top of the hearing aid, there's also a third microphone right in the ear canal. So that's just a fascinating, innovative feature that I hope that most hearing aid companies will incorporate in the future. Now we have a different company has a different strategy to improve the ability of utilizing the microphone to be able to help hear someone a little bit better. So Widex is another of these major hearing aid companies, and they've redesigned the style or the shape of their hearing aids. So a traditional hearing aid tends to have like, I'm just going to show it to you. I don't know if you can see well, but it's like a kind of a rounded shape that goes on the pinna or the ear. But rather than that typical standard behind the ear design, they now have an L-shaped design. So I'm going to show you a picture. But so the hearing aid is more like an L. And the reason why they've done that is that they want the microphone to be what's called on a horizontal plane, versus like when you have the traditional behind the ear design, then it was called a diagonal plane. So horizontal versus diagonal. When sound waves are reaching the ears or the head, the best way for the microphone to focus on the front and behind is when it's on the horizontal plane, when the microphone's on the same plane. But the traditional design, when it's like this, it doesn't separate the sound as well. And so you cannot enhance the front versus the back sounds coming from the back like noise. You cannot separate them as easily that way. And so we're going to show, so this design, this L-shaped design enhances directionality. That means, again, to improve your ability to enhance the signal in front of you and cut out the noise from behind. So that's the ability to lessen the signal from behind the listener, and by doing that, improve the speech to noise or your ability to understand speech better. So you see, this is the example of their new hearing aid. And you'll see, like with my cursor, it's straight here. The microphones are more in a horizontal and then comes down. Okay. And I'm going to show another picture again in a few slides relative to that. The last of these aspects, before I go on to what I call the sexier innovation, is the feedback management. And this is a feature that tremendously changed how we fit hearing aid to individuals. Up until about 2000, 2005, anyone who wore a hearing aid had to also have an ear mold. An ear mold that was customized to your ear and filled up your ear canal. The problem is that people with a mild hearing loss or a moderate hearing loss, in maybe the mid and higher frequencies, many of them have normal hearing in the low pitches. And when you put an ear mold in the ear, it blocks out the sound from getting in as easily. And so people who had a mild hearing loss in the lows or normal hearing, they said they felt stuffed up. They felt like they were talking in a barrel. Now, for me, as someone who has like a moderately severe hearing loss in the lows and severe hearing loss above, I never heard that what's called the occlusion effect, that barrel. It didn't bother me. But a lot of people who had mild hearing loss, they didn't want to wear the hearing aid. They turned them back. They said their voice sounded awful. And the reason why we had molds is we needed to prevent that feedback that that was occurring in the higher pitches because the ear mold couldn't contain all the sound. So by we talked about it before, about that acoustic feedback management, by implementing that feature, modern hearing aid have that feedback canceling. So now you don't need a full ear mold to be able to to prevent that whistling. Because if you had what's called an open ear mold where sound could get in, or if you had an ear mold where you made a big hole for sound to get in before it would be whistling, or you put what's called a plastic tip or a dome in the ear, but with a big hole in it to allow sound to come in. Now, with the new software, there is no whistling. So people who have a mild hearing loss or a moderate hearing loss, they don't need an ear mold. And because of that, they're not feeling stuffed up. Their voice sounds natural. And now they're wearing hearing aids more often than they used to. And so that's been a great thing for them. And so this is an example of a hearing aid with what's called a slim tube. And then the receiver is in that little dome. But you'll see most of that is like little spokes on a wheel, but the rest of it is open. So all the sound can go in, and there's not going to be any whistling. But the natural sound, the normal sound in the environment, can also get in, and they can hear their own voice naturally, and they don't feel stuffed up. So we're now able to help people with mild hearing loss or normal hearing in the lows to benefit from hearing aids when they have hearing loss in the high frequencies only. So I mentioned what's called a receiver in the canal or receiver in the ear hearing aids. They both mean the same thing, but I'm going to start using the term receiver in the canal or receiver in the ear canal hearing aids. So now, as I said, by having a receiver in the ear canal and not having to be in a hearing aid, the hearing aid becomes smaller in size, they don't feedback. And I can tell you in the 1990s, these the smaller hearing aid types, the completely in the canal hearing aids, those were the most popular type of hearing aid fitting. There were about 50–60% of the fittings were these small type, and behind the ear fitting were only like 20%. Receiver and the canal hearing aid are now about 60–70% of the fitting. It is by far the most popular type of hearing aid fitting because you have the most flexibility. It's larger, but it's very discreet. And even though it's larger, it's still small enough. So many times I even see men who have very short hair, and I don't know they're wearing hearing aids unless I walk behind them. So it's become the most popular type of hearing aid to fit for audiologists and for people to wear. You can have it it can be done with a dome. A dome is that little rubber plastic with a receiver, but pretty open. Or you can have the receiver placed in a custom mold. So as long as you have up to maybe a severe hearing loss, you can place that receiver in a custom mold, which is what I have. Because of my hearing loss, I need ear mold. But in my ear mold is a receiver. And so my hearing aids can be smaller. And again, I'll show it to you. Hopefully it's not whistling too much. But if you see there, you'll see a little blue in there. And so that's a mold that's been custom fit for my hearing aid. But the receiver, the sound speaker where I'm going to hear the sound is right inside that mold. So even though I have a severe to profound hearing loss in the highs, that's why I need a mold, but I'm still able to put the receiver there and not feedback at all. So that's a wonderful benefit, not only for people with milder hearing loss, but even for people like myself with a severe hearing loss. So here's a graphic. So the right hearing aid, well, is the left here with the blue. that shows you a hearing aid with a tube, and then to what's called a dome. So the receiver goes to a dome. That's someone with maybe a mild to moderate hearing loss maximum, or normal, mild, maybe up to a moderate. In the low frequency, they can wear a dome. But someone like me would have a custom mold, but the receiver also there. So that's just showing you the receiver in a canal with either a mold or a dome. And then this is just showing you a person wearing that hearing aid with the receiver in the dome. And there it is. You can't even see it. It's all the way contained into the ear canal, and very discreet. And the size of the hearing aid is so small that it's smaller than the edge of the pin, so you don't even see the hearing aid. It's hidden there. You'd have to go behind to see it. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. So, Russell, I'll just ask, are we doing okay? Does anybody need to ask a question, or we're doing fine for now?
As far as I can see, yeah, we're doing fine.
Okay, great. Okay, so hopefully that means people are finding it clear. And if afterward I need to elaborate, we'll have plenty of time to do so. Okay, so now we're going to talk about artificial intelligence. So in the past, we're talking about maybe the past 2 or 3 years only, artificial intelligence has been integrated into digital hearing aids. And, let me just say, artificial intelligence basically means software that can learn over time and adjust to a person's preferences, or they can adjust relative to the environment, so that people can benefit from those adjustments and be able to use hearing aids, use whatever other devices to the best potential specific to their needs. So artificial intelligence basically means using software that can learn in real time to get better and better. Now, generally, what hearing aid companies, on all hearing aid companies now, the major manufacturers, the top of the line products, I don't know about OTC, but top of the line hearing aids, the manufacturers are exposing and training the hearing aids. Like before they ever release the hearing aid in the market, they're training those hearing aids using artificial intelligence or even cochlear implant at the factory. And they're doing it with millions of different real world sound or scenarios prior to releasing the hearing aid in the marketplace. So be it in a restaurant, be it in a church or temple, be it in a school setting, they're looking at all different types of settings. One person talking, many people talking, where the person's talking in front or behind, different music, etc. And so they train them and train them. And then with different hearing loss configurations, I believe, they want to see what gives the best result in terms of the acoustics. And then they try it on actual individuals and then shape it over time. So it takes, just so you know, about approximately 5 to 6 years from the beginning of development of a hearing aid before it's finally released into the marketplace. So what you're seeing being released now was initially started like 5 years ago, and then over time, maybe tweaked and tweaked and tweaked until it's released into the marketplace. And so you have all these scenarios. So by doing that, it helps the hearing aid to learn and to adjust parameters to what individuals with different hearing loss configurations will likely best hear in specific situations. But this is based on general averages for those different hearing loss configurations. Then the hearing aid will continue to learn based on actual usage for that specific individual. And that individual might tweak it, like either in a remote control, on their app, or doing various other things on a hearing aid perhaps. And through usage over time, the hearing aid will learn what that individual's likes for the setting of the hearing aid to be in that particular situation. So that when that situation occurs, the hearing aid is already set and learned what the person likes, so you don't have to adjust again. It will automatically go back to what the person liked originally, could be a month ago, 2 months ago, but when it'll have memorized and set in the hearing aid so that when the scenario, the listening situation is almost identical, the hearing aid will use the same setting what the user used before in that setting. So we'll continue to learn, adjust the algorithms over time to improve one's ability to hear in different listening environment and make it more automatic over time because it will have been doing the learning. That is a fantastic thing. Like I remember 40, 50 years ago, I would go in a situation, I'd be adjusting my volume control, up, down, up, down, up, down, program one, program two. I was spending so much time doing that. I hardly ever touch my hearing aids now because it's being done automatically. So I can enjoy life and listening, not worrying about what I have to, how to get it right. It's just doing it. So that's a fantastic thing, I feel. Now I'm mentioning another company. So I've talked about Widex and Resound, and all the companies have different aspects. And I just use Starkey, but most of the other companies do the same or similar thing. Their hearing aids analyze the environment and make over 80 million adjustments, fine-tuning adjustments per hour. Can you believe that? 80 million changes and tweaks based on being in different listening scenarios and people's voices. It could be a male talking versus a female. It could be a loud male talk versus a soft female. And the hearing aids making those adjustments on the fly. Different types of noise, quiet, etc. And all you have to do is enjoy talking and seeing if that meets your needs. If not, then you may tweak it a little, or you may have more of a hearing loss that requires an accessory. So the following are some of the benefits of artificial intelligence in hearing aids nowadays. So I'm going to tell you how it's being used. And it's not only, as I'll say, concerning sound, but it'll also concern other wonderful benefits from artificial intelligence. First, your hearing aids are going to recognize which voices you're most exposed to. So obviously your friends and your family members are going to be the voices that you most often will listen to. Hearing aids will determine that and usually prioritize those voices over strangers' voices because someone else may not be, like passing by or something. However, that'll be maybe it will emphasize, but then it'll determine if someone like a doctor whose voice you don't hear, but that might be the only voice in the environment, then that'll get prioritized. So it's recognizing the voice is most important. It'll recognize that the voices are more important than just environmental sound most of the time. So over time, as I say, AI, which is artificial intelligence, will learn the voice the listener is most commonly exposed to, prioritize these voices over competing ambient noise. Now, the problem is, let's say 3 or 4 people are talking at the same time. I don't know, even though it had prioritized recognizing the voice. I'm not 100% sure how well it does compared to competing noise, but there are other attributes in the hearing aid, as I say, directionality, etc., that can help you out when a number of people are talking. But again, only to a certain point. It can only help a little bit. The hearing aid can only do so much before you need to use remote microphones. Actually, I didn't know this until I prepared for this presentation the past week or two. They are now using artificial intelligence to help you hear speech through a face mask. As many of you know, that in the pandemic it was so hard to hear others. You can't lip read, and the high frequency sounds they couldn't get through the face mask. The low frequencies can go through a mask, but the S like in sun, the F as in Frank, the TH, those are very short wavelengths and they get absorbed through the mask. So what you would hear would not be as clear. I'm just quoting what I read, but I don't know enough yet what it means, what I'm going to share with you. It says artificial intelligence recognizes that the listener is speaking to someone, even if speech is muffled. Okay, fine. In real time, it'll prioritize and amplify and accentuate the voice cues of the person. So the high or maybe being decreased, it may boost it somewhat more. helping the listener hear more clearly. I didn't look at, and I should have, but there's been a busy couple of weeks for me. But I don't know what the evidence shows how much of an improvement occurs, but uh, it appears that it does make it somewhat more clear. The question is it clear enough? Because many of us, once you have a severe hearing loss, a profound hearing loss, even if you can see it, like you hear the sound completely clearly, you still need to rely on speech reading to help. So I'm going to learn a little more, maybe in the next day or so, maybe share what I find in the literature, and then email Russell to send out to anybody if you're curious about that. Okay. But that is an important feature, I feel, that's going to help us. By the way, before I became an audiology student, I wanted to be a medical doctor. That was my goal from the age of 3 until the end of university. Matter of fact, I applied for medicine even after I got my master's degree in audiology. But what I didn't know was at the time, and I didn't have anybody, is when I applied to medicine and when I was at my interview, I didn't know how well I could hear, like in an emergency, there's so much noise, and I could not lip read in a surgical situation because of the masks. Now, if you're hard of hearing, things that are happening with clear masks and improved technology, use of remote mics, that allows us as hard of hearing individuals to basically do almost anything we can as long as we study hard enough, which I didn't do either early on, or if you have your potential. So, but I just want you to know things are happening to remove limitation, the barriers that hard of hearing individuals used to have. And I can tell you that I have a deaf dentist in Rochester, and I was good friend with a deaf pediatrician. So anyway, it's just that we're able to do many more things. And I think going forward, even more individuals will be able to do things. Now, I'm going to talk about even more AI benefits, and it's going to be discussed throughout the rest of the presentation. Now, this is not an AI benefit, but I think most of you know what wireless connectivity is. Wireless connectivity basically means the ability to hear a sound source that goes through the air and is able to allow you to get sound from a transmitter to be picked up through either you're hearing it directly or through a streamer. So we're going to define it. So it refers to the ability of hearing aids or cochlear implants to some of the things that are the benefits of it. So now I'm going to go to some of the things that wireless connectivity allows. So if you can have hearing aids communicate with hearing aids, or devices transmitted wirelessly connect to hearing aids, one of the things that happened like 10 years ago, it allowed data to be exchanged between the hearing aid device or cochlear implant. So if you change the volume in one hearing aid, it automatically changes the volume in the other hearing aid because they're communicating with each other. Or if you change the program, like let's say instead of your everyday program, you want to program for music or you want to program for noise situations. When you change it in one device, you don't have to press a button or a remote control for both. It does it for both. It automatically does that. That's because the two hearing aids are wirelessly connected to each other and exchanging data. I love this feature, and now I hate like the old days when you talked on a telephone, you only heard it in one ear. When I talk via my cell phone, which is sending a signal to a streamer to my hearing aid, I'm not just hearing in one ear, I'm hearing it in the center of my head. That's another lecture if you want to understand how you hear in the center of your head. But the signal is being picked up from one hearing aid, is sent to the other hearing aid, and now the telephone signal is both, but because they're equally loud, the way it happens, the brain will result in you thinking or feeling that you're hearing right in the center. And I love that feeling. I feel so balanced. And it's wonderful. And so you can hear a talker in both ears, but in reality, you might not hear them at the ear. You might hear them in the center of your head. But I love that. The devices are talking to each other and sharing audio streams. Audio streams means sound. So instead, in the old days, they used to sell record players. And I remember my first record player, I think was called, what was it called? A monaural or something. I was like, it only had one speaker. And then the big thing that happened was stereo. So it could separate the sound into two channels. And then you had quadraphonic and then 8 channels, like the 8-track cassette. So binaural means that the sounds are being treated differently in the two ears. It's not one sound identical in both ears. Like when you listen in a neck loop, the sound is being processed through, let's say, whatever device the electromagnetic signal from the loop is being sent to, but then it's being sent identically to both ears. And so you can never hear music in stereo with a neck loop. But now with Bluetooth and other devices, they separate it and you have what's called binaural streaming. That means separate channels for each sound. So, let's say you're listening to the cell phone has music, or you have the stereo system. So from the right speaker, it gets sent to the right hearing aid or right cochlear implant, and the left channel to the left. And so it allows you to truly hear music in stereo. And God, I can hear music through my hearing aid and through my streamer from the cell phone better than I ever heard in my life. I have both speakers in my car, but it doesn't sound, I'm sure, that great to me. But I sure hear it great when I hear it to the streaming. So it's wonderful that way. And now wireless connectivity can happen many ways. In the past, it would be an induction loop, like in a church, sending electromagnetically. It could be through an FM system. It could be in infrared. It can be a neck loop. But now you can, one of the latest advances is to have wire connectivity through Bluetooth. Now, for many people who have the more advanced hearing aid, the recent hearing aid, and maybe have a cell phone that's more expensive than mine. I'll share that in a second. They can use an Android, like an Android cell phone or an Apple, and they can just maybe tap on their hearing aid or whatever, but pair the hearing aid directly to the cell phone, and they'll hear the cell phone right to their hearing aids. Or in my case, I cannot pair, even though my hearing aid can pick up Bluetooth and a recent very, higher end. I bought a Samsung lower end telephone, like for 250. I didn't need a $1,500 cell phone, but then it cannot pair with my hearing aid directly. But I have what's like I call the streamer, where I pair my cell phone to the streamer and then my streamer sent to the hearing aid. And so I can hear fine that way. So either way, you can connect to a cell phone, to a television, to a computer, and I'm going to talk about that in the next few slides. And I'm going to tell you, like right now, as I'm doing a presentation, I am connected to my computer directly because I have a little connector that I put it into the computer, USB port, and then it sends a signal ultimately to my hearing aid so I can hear everybody right to my hearing aid, and you can hear me directly as I send it to my devices. So here, this is actually what I wear. And again, some people say, oh, because you wear that company, I should get that. And I said, no, uh, you have to get whatever is best for you. And I wear what's called Oticon hearing aids. And this is called a Connect clip. So this person is not able to pair the cell phone directly to his hearing aid. So the cell phone is first paired by Bluetooth. It's called Bluetooth Classic, paired to the streamer. And then the streamer has a proprietary program that works with the hearing aids. So that person can hear the cell phone indirectly using that streamer. And that streamer is not only picking up the cell phone, but it also has a microphone. So as that person's talking, the microphone is facing the mouth. It's very directional. And so as the person talks, it goes to the microphone of that streamer and then sent to the cell phone. So that's how that person is talking to that via wireless connectivity to cell phone. Now, hearing aid cochlear implants can also connect wirelessly to a remote microphone. So this, for example, this microphone, I can place it on, like when I go to a conference, I can sit maybe 30 feet away, place the microphone on a lectern, and when the person talks, the microphone will pick it up and send a signal to my hearing aid 30 feet away, and I hear that person as if they're only 6 inches away from me. But every company has remote microphones. So whether you have a Down, Starkey, Widex, a cochlear implant, cochlear, or Medel, they all have remote microphones. The principle is the same. And if you're using Bluetooth, the distance, maximum distance of Bluetooth is about 30 feet. By the way, as the new Bluetooth low energy audio come into play, that's going to be more like 60 to 100 feet away, a much larger distance. So, but again, like people used to think the FM system was like magical, but the FM system or infrared or even this, they're not magical. All they basically do is decrease the distance between the talker's mouth and the listener's ear. So if a person without a remote microphone talks, then I'm hearing them like 30 feet away. But when I use the microphone, then the distance really is the distance of the talker's mouth to the distance of the microphone picking it up. So here's about 4 inches. So my hearing aids are going to hear that person as if they're only 4 inches away. So all it's doing is decreasing the distance between the talker's mouth and the listener's ear. That's what all these systems are about primarily. Although there's some other features, and this is much more than a remote microphone. It's also a streamer too, and I can use it for computer and TV, etc. So hearing aid cochlear implant manufacturers have their own proprietary remote mics that work with their hearing aid. So you cannot use an Oticon remote mic with Phonak hearing aids. You cannot use a Starkey remote mic with Signia hearing aids. Each company's remote mic has to be used with their own company's hearing aids. However, with the new Bluetooth standard, the new Bluetooth low energy audio, everybody, that's going to be a universal standard that we'll be able to use the transmitter. So you're not going to have that issue. So manufacturers are not going to produce, we'll have to see, but it's possible the new device with a Bluetooth standard, low energy standard, is going to become the new remote mic, but it will be the same regardless which hearing aid you use, because every hearing aid for picking up wireless connectivity is going to be that universal Bluetooth low energy audio. So that's going to be universal hearing aid, and the microphone is going to be universal. So it won't be just proprietary technology anymore. So here's examples. I just wanted to show how wireless connectivity is being used. And I know many of you already know this. So you have this person wearing it, he's riding a bike. And, let's say someone's hard of hearing riding a bike behind them. I can't hear what anybody else is saying on a bike. They're in front of me, they're behind me. But if they wear the microphone and wear it with like a lanyard, now they can talk and I can hear them whether they're in front or behind. So that's a wonderful thing. By the way, I've never done that. I just really looked at the picture carefully and said, what an idiot I've been all these years. I haven't used it that way. But that's a terrific way to use it. And then again, this person wearing it to listen to this or talk to a cell phone. I have no idea what this person's doing. This person talking to teaching. So if you're a teacher and someone in a classroom, they can use their hearing aid with that Oticon Connect clip. And now they can teach in a high school classroom or a college classroom that way, because most high school or even many college classrooms are 30 feet or less. So you can do that. So you don't need an FM or something else. This will meet their needs. A different company, Phonak, has actually the best remote microphone and called the Rogers Select. See, the Connect clip only has one microphone. The Rogers Select, it's like has 6 microphones arranged within a circle. A circle has 360 degrees, so each microphone is placed 60 degrees from each other. So it covers the whole circle. And it also has like smart software that can determine where, like, let's say you can put on a table here. Let's say we'll go to the bottom picture. You put on a table. So whoever is the main person talking, that microphone will be on and it'll shut down the other microphone so the noise from the other is reduced. So it's analyzing the environment, and so it's a secret weapon for background noise using a little slogan, but it is much more expensive than the Connect Clip. I'm not going to go into pricing because everybody sells different pricing, but it is more expensive, but it's much better device too. So, and you can either wear it or put it on a table. And there's what's called a Rogers table microphone, other things you can. So if you have like 4 or 5 tables, like 20 people, a Rogers Select can't pick up all the people, but they use these Rogers table mics and they pair the mics together. So you might have 4 or 5 of these microphones put on a table, and now you can hear. Like if you had a Thanksgiving dinner and you had a table like 30 feet long, you could hear someone at the other end of the table. So isn't that wonderful to be able to really participate and even hear a joke at the other end of the table? So it's just wonderful, the kind of technology. And what's great about this stuff is we can hear better than people with normal hearing. When people, even normal hearing people, can only hear a few people and then too much noise. But with this, we can hear people talking 30 feet away, whispering, if you have that good enough hearing. And the people with normal hearing say, what are they saying? What are they saying? I say, leave me alone. You've got a problem now. I love it. After 50 or 60 years of this, it's so much fun when I can hear and other normal hearing people can't. Anyway, so on most hearing aid, cochlear implant can now, as I say, compare directly to cell phones, be it Apple or Android, we say that. But like I said, some Android models cannot be paired directly. I believe every Apple phone can, but Android had all these different models. So in my case, I need what's called the intermediary streamer. An intermediary means something between the source and the receiver part of it. So in between. And again, I said I have just so you know, I have what's called a Samsung A54 cell phone. Works terrifically for my needs, but I just can't pair directly. Now, so we talked about pairing to cell phone, but you can pair directly to computers. And I don't know how many of you actually have paired or listened to a computer directly tied to your hearing aid rather than using a speaker. I don't like the sound of a speaker from a computer. I like it directly. Now, hearing aid can be paired directly to the computer with Macintosh computers. So as long as you have a Mac computer with what's called the M1 chip, I have no idea because I don't use a Mac, or all Mac computers, the latest computers, or I don't know if this means the latest computers with the more advanced chip or a more expensive one, but these type of computers are all the ones that all you can pair directly to the computer with a Macintosh, Apple. And if you want to know which supported hearing devices, I gave you like, and also I'm going to, I guess all individuals that have the PDF, all they have to do is click on this and it'll find out all the iPhone hearing devices. So you'll find out if your hearing device can actually be paired directly to an iPhone. So wherever you see this different color with a line underneath, that is an actual link. Now, PCs are somewhat different. Now, I don't know if I have Windows 11. I have 3 computers, and I believe I have the older Windows technology. But if you have the Windows 11, Windows 11 will be able to pair computers directly to hearing aids. So I do have Windows 11 on a different computer. The problem is you, in the next year or two, once the new hearing aids, all the hearing aids have the new Bluetooth low energy audio chip embedded in the hearing aid. And just to let you know, some of the hearing aid companies, some of the models that are coming out have Bluetooth low energy audio. So if you have Windows 11, you'll be able to pair this hearing aid. It's got to be a newer hearing aid, probably in the last half a year that these hearing aids have started to come out. Then you'll be able to hear directly by pairing your hearing aid to a PC. But again, you need the newest hearing aid with the Bluetooth low energy audio chip, and you need Windows 11 to do that. On the other hand, you can still pair it to a PC. So in the meantime, you have to use what's called a proprietary, that means unique, USB. I'll show you what a USB looks like here. I'm not going to take the one out from my computer. This is a USB dongle, if you can see. This is what you can put into a USB port on a computer. This is the one I'm holding in my hand is actually for Bluetooth for a wireless mouse. You can get these USB dongles for a keyboard, but I have what's called a Sennheiser USB dongle that can pair with my Connect clip. So you can use that USB dongle and you can pair it. So this is an example from Widex. Widex uses a USB dongle. You'll see right here, I'm pointing to it. And then you're going to connect it to a USB port in a computer. And then you're going to pair the intermediate or the hearing aid to that USB dongle, which will allow you then to be able to hear the computer directly into your new, if you got this new L-shaped smart, like hearing aid smart mic, Widex hearing aids. And this is like mine. So here I take the USB dongle, I put it into the port there. Here's my Connect clip. I pair my Connect clip to the USB dongle, and then I make sure my Connect clip has been paired to my hearing aids, and then I can hear the computer directly. And I love it. I listen to YouTube music through that combination, and I love the music while I'm doing work, and it's fantastic. Now the next thing is the TV adapter. I've had from Oticon a TV adapter for 3 years that I didn't use. And then my family would say, you're playing the TV too loud, even with my hearing aids. So finally, I made the time and tried to connect the, my TV adapter to TV. And I found that my TV that I had downstairs actually couldn't do it. So I had one of my wonderful audiologists at Gallaudet help me out. And we couldn't connect it to the TV, but I use Verizon. I don't know how many of you use Verizon. They have what's called a DVR. You can put the TV adapter, you can either connect to TV, but in my case, I'm connecting it right to the DVR. That had a port that allowed me to connect. I didn't have that on my TV. And I'll tell you something fascinating I found out when I did that. Anyway, I finally did that. And oh, before I go, I'll share with you. I found it amazing. You can connect to the TV and mute the TV. I mean, you can set the volume to 0. Nobody else will hear the TV, and you can hear the TV to your implant or your hearing aid at your comfortable level. All you have to do is set your hearing aid to the, or a cochlear implant to the level you like, and you are going to hear the TV at the level you like. So even, let's say you're sleeping in bed with your spouse, and they have good hearing, you can, as long as the light doesn't bother them, you can watch your TV with 0 volume and hear it beautifully for yourself. Or let's say you're in a den or whatever room that you watch TV in, you can have it set, the TV adapter, and then they can raise the level to what they want. It's independent of each other. So everybody's happy now. And so let's go on now. I wanted to in pairing the TV adapter or whatever to your hearing aid. Number one, in terms of smart TVs, I only have one. It appears at this time only the Amazon Fire TVs can be paired directly to Bluetooth hearing aids. So if you have a Bluetooth hearing aid and you have an Amazon Fire TV, you don't need to order a TV adapter. It'll automatically pair with each other. So here, like if you have a smart TV and you go to accessibility and you say hearing aids, you can then pair it to the smart TV. You may not be able, I should have blown it up even more, but this person is wearing hearing aid and they're pairing it to the TV directly. So that's a hearing aid pairing on a Fire TV, audio stream for hearing. Okay. Now, if you don't have direct connectivity to TV, and the great majority of people don't, you can stream or you can get the sound from the TV through the company's TV adapters. So if you wear Oticon hearing aids, you need to get an Oticon TV adapter. You wear Starkey hearing aids, you get a Starkey TV adapter. Every company sells an adapter, a TV adapter that can be used with their hearing aids or with their cochlear implants. So here, example is my TV adapter called the Oticon TV adapter. And there is a connector, I think, to the what is it called? HMDI, or I'm blanking on that, the cable to the TV, and then to a power. This is the person who's pairing their hearing aid directly to the adapter. And then once it's been paired and just been connected to TV, you're all set. And that's all you have to do. And you control your hearing aid control the volume you're going to listen in. Now, once Bluetooth low energy audio is fully in place in the marketplace, in the next, I would say Bluetooth will be really in the marketplace in the next 3 years. TVs and computers will be able to stream directly to hearing aid and cochlear implants. So we won't need those TV adapters. You want to, like I said before, you'll be able to pair to the computer directly with your hearing aid, because there'll be a little pairing, like software in a computer that you just go to and pair it. Same thing with the TVs, you'll be able to do. So the following slides summarize some of the device connectivity scenarios with hearing aids and cochlear implants. And then I'm going to take like a 3 or 4 minute break, just so we have plenty of time. I just want to give a break. You've been listening to me for a long time. We have time. I'm just going to take a break. If you have a question, fine. But I just want to show these slides, and then we'll move on and finish up. So you can, now this is a person I believe probably wearing phonak hearing aid. So let's say there's a phone call, and so they find, like, they get a little beep beep maybe from the cell phone in their hearing aid. They hear that. All they have to do is just tap the hearing aid like twice, and that'll connect to the phone, and then they can talk. Here is the mother with a child who's wearing hearing aid in the back. So the mother's talking to the remote microphone wearing it, and now the child can hear right in their hearing aid directly. Just so you know, when you're in the back seat and the person driving, their voice is being projected forward. When a voice is projected forward, the high pitched sound drop off like 15 to 20 decibels, makes it much harder for someone with hearing loss to hear. If you have normal hearing, you still have enough hearing to hear those sounds. But it's like any time, like I remember when I was in grade 8, just before I had hearing aids even, when my geometry teacher would talk, they would face the blackboard. And it has nothing to do with the talk. I just want you to know, when someone's not facing you and facing the opposite way, it's not that you just can't lip read. The high frequency sound, like the E, the sh, the F, the TH, the S, all those sounds really drop in intensity. So that's why it's so much harder to hear. But the remote mic being in front of the person's voice, it's not only doing that distance, but it allows all those sounds that are being projected in the opposite direction to go right in the microphone, making it much easier in the backseat for the person to hear. And then I have a YouTube video that you can learn more about these aspects. And also hearing aid wireless connected to the phonak Roger mic. So I'm just showing again here, got 7 people with a Roger Select picking up people. It almost looked like Poets and whatever that place is called, that restaurant. Anyway, and then here you have 2 Roger Select because it's a bigger table, and it might be the 2 Roger Select, more likely a Roger table mics. And this person's like talking, then they'll pick this one up. This person talking, they'll be projected. So these, it's a way, and they're connected to each other, so they work in combination. And so this is just showing you how you can be in a situation where usually very difficult, but being much easier for you now. And here's another YouTube video to show you about those systems. Again, here's the Amazon TV, a Fire TV streaming directly to a cochlear implant. So you're wearing the implant, and you're going to be able to hear being picked up the processor and paired to it. So again, it's not just these like wireless accessories only for hard people wearing hearing aids, also for cochlear implants. And here is like cochlear. and they have a wireless TV streamer. They also have the wireless mini microphone and a wireless phone clip. So these are three examples of accessories that Cochlear uses. That if you have cochlear implant, and I don't know if Cochlear just automatically provides you with them or you have to order them. Again, I don't know cochlear implants as well as I know hearing aids. And then, okay, so we're going to just take a little break for a second. I'm going to stop sharing, but I don't know. Okay. So I want people to have maybe a couple of minutes of silence, unless somebody has a quick question, and then I'll gladly answer, because that'll be different than hearing me so much.
I do have a question.
Okay, please go ahead.
I understand what you're saying with all of this equipment in terms of Bluetooth, but for a long time I never had Bluetooth. And I use telecoil in order to connect to my MacBook Pro, to connect with my iPhone, and to connect with my TV, because my TV is not Bluetooth.
Right,
Right now, I am using my amplified neck loop.
right. That looks like a clear sound from what I can see.
Yeah, it is. And it's an amplified neck loop.
Right,
Now I just got Bluetooth. And of course, Bluetooth automatically connects to my iPhone because the audiologist paired it. And I cannot tell the difference in the clarity of sound between telecoil and Bluetooth. They both sound pristine. So in terms of a cheaper solution, as long as you have an audio port or a headphone jack, sometimes they're called, you can connect this neck loop into the audio jack, and you can actually hear these devices through telecoil. I mean, it just has worked so well for me. So my TV, I just have a 25-foot long cord, because obviously Bluetooth is wireless, but with a neck loop, you have a cord.
right.
Yeah.
Do you have a question for me or just a comment?
Yes, yes. I have a question. So I use the Roger mic like you were describing. I realize the Roger Select is the new version, but you can go on eBay and get Roger pens version 1.1 for less than $100. And because I take 4 or 5 or 6 of them with me to the restaurant and hand them out so that I can hear people at the restaurant. What my question was, if there was another manufacturer where you could network the mini mics. I knew that you could network these mini mics on the Roger Phonak system, but I wasn't sure if there was another manufacturer that you could do that with.
Okay, so I'm going to address two parts to this. I have used T-coil and had T-coil for 50 years. But and remember I said there's nothing magical in most ways between, using an FM system, an infrared, a T-coil. But because again, the whole thing they do is decrease the distance, so you're going to have pristine. But let me give you some advantages of Bluetooth relative to the T-coil. Now, I want people to have T-coil in the meantime because, hey, the Bluetooth is not out there yet completely. But I have been where I paid like $50 and $75 to go to a off-Broadway show. And when I went and they gave me a seat, and then eventually I ended up as a consultant for them, they had a generator right next to the area where I was seated. And you know what I was hearing? When you have T-coil, it picks up whatever electric devices in the neighborhood. So I was getting the hum, and I couldn't hear. Bluetooth, you have no hum. That's one. So that's an advantage of Bluetooth. But if you're in a quiet area, that's why it's so important to have no air conditioning or powerful heating system nearby, because then you get this electric interference that only the T-Corp can pick up. Another thing that'll be a benefit with Bluetooth, as I said, is that if you have a typical neck loop or induction loop, then you're not going to hear in stereo. So if you go to a Broadway musical show, you're not going to hear the music as separated or stereo as well. And I love music, so I enjoy that. And then there's many other advantages that maybe I'll do the Bluetooth low energy audio if Russell wants me to present on that in the future. I'm going to be doing for our peer mentoring group in the fall. I present to them periodically. So there's certain things, but you're right. And I believe, I remember the Clear Sound has a feature where it can pick up stereo. It's not a traditional neck loop. It can separate it out for you, if I recall. As for, just so, even though Phonak is the manufacturer put the most investment in assistive listening systems or hearing technology. So I don't know if there are any other companies that really are getting into like pairing. That's why Phonak has the best type of remote microphone compared to some of the other manufacturers. But I'll tell you what, I believe with Bluetooth low energy audio, you'll be able to have many systems at the same time. What I don't know, and I'll have to ask that question to somebody, if you can have multiple microphones being used at the same time without interfering, and because they have to be on the same frequency.
Mhm.
And so Phonak developed a way of being able to be on the same frequency or frequency hopping that everybody can use it and not worry. So anyway, thanks for asking that question. You're right. If people have T-Quil, you can use it in so many ways for now, but ultimately the world will be changing and it'll be wonderful that way. Okay, so hopefully I addressed at least some of your comments. I'm going to go back to
Yes,
the presentation now, but
yes,
did it help a little bit? But thank you for mentioning that for
yes.
others who have T-Quil in the meantime, or hearing people individuals don't have hearing aids yet who may be here today, that T-Quil is still a good way to make sure you're part of your hearing aid for now until the future comes to be part of the meeting. Okay, so I'm going to go back now to sharing my screen and going
Larry,
on with the presentation.
we have about a half hour and a lot of questions,
Okay,
in the chat box, which I think, I'd like to go get as much answered as we can in the time remaining.
okay, so
One thing I would point out to everyone, speaking for myself, there's an awful lot of information here. This will be recorded, and the recording will be available, with captions, probably, I would say, in a week or so. But, I know, at least speaking for myself and maybe for others as well, I don't know. I fully intend to go looking at this presentation again because I cannot absorb, quite everything that was said. And there's an awful lot that was said that I think, I would profit by. So that will be coming. I'd like to,
okay,
if we could go through, questions, in the chat box.
okay.
Um,
Russell, a question.
Sure.
Okay, so you want to go through the question, then hopefully if I have enough time, I'll finish up the rest here, like of the presentation. I wasn't finished, but I can go through some of the questions now, or would you like me to quickly, I don't have that much left to finish the presentation. What would you like me to do?
Well, what's your recommendation? I don't know what, we have not,
So let me
you
just look
go
here
over if
where I
you
am. Ooh, yeah, some
continue
of
to
these
the
are
end, but
quick.
I certainly would like to
I'll
get
just
some
go through some of
questions
the
to
quick
answer
ones
because I
and
know
then I'll
people have
stop.
them.
Yeah, I think I
Okay, go
shouldn't
ahead.
okay, so let's go through and I'll do
Go
maybe
ahead.
about 5 or 7 more minutes of this and then we'll go on, okay? And answer the questions. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, so some of the latest innovations. So one, right off the bat, I feel hearing aids is a misnomer now. They really should be referred to as personal hearing systems because they do much more than just being hearing aids, as you'll see in a minute. One hearing aid company, Starkey, what they've done is take the hearing aid or the amplification and they've combined it with what are known as healthable features. Healthable are features are sensors that ultimately can improve your health and wellness and their functionality relative to non-hearing aspects. For example, Starkey has fall detection in their hearing aids. So if a person was to start falling down, the hearing aid, the sensor can pick up that the person's falling, and then send a signal to either a family member or to company to let them know that a person's fallen and to come to the house or to contact that person, which is a great feature. Starkey also has a fitness tracker, so it can track your heart rate. It can count the number of steps you do a day, like a pedometer. It can determine how much time you're actually talking to other people, and so that way involved in social communication. So here's this interaction app. We know that one of the reasons that hearing loss seems to be related to dementia is that people with hearing loss don't communicate as much with other people. And we know that people who have like early stage dementia, the more they engage socially, the more you can delay the onset of dementia. So that's what research is now showing, that if you can get hearing aids earlier on, people who get hearing aids seem to have less likelihood of getting dementia than those who don't wear hearing aids. And so this hearing aid app measures how much time you're talking to other people, and that's what we want to know. So if you're not engaging, we have to increase that engagement. So trying to help you keep your mind sharp. And then the hearing aid through the cell phone app can share that information with pre-selected people. A number of hearing aids also work wirelessly. You can use Bluetooth with Alexa, with the Ring, Google Nest. So if you ask Alexa a question, rather than trying to hear through a speaker, it'll send it right to your hearing aid. Or if you have the Ring and a doorbell ring, they'll send it right to your hearing aids too, which is a wonderful feature. So this allows the individual to more easily, somebody's going over my slide, it looks like, sorry. This allows the individual to more easily be alerted to important environmental stimuli, etc. And there's so much more, so let's continue. Hearing aid cochlear implants. You know, in the past few years, most hearing aids are now that are being sold are rechargeable hearing aid or devices. And so you can get up with one charge with a, with a receiver and a canal hearing aid. You can get 51 hours of hearing aid charge on a single charge. Or with a CIC, you can get up to 7 days or whatever. And so you don't have to worry anymore that your hearing aid is going to die in that day. So at the end of the day, just put it back in and guaranteed, as long as you're not streaming too much. Now, my hearing aids sometimes die off before I go to bed, but that's because I've been listening and watching TV programs for like 6 hours straight using that TV adapter that drains the hearing aids more. But otherwise, if you don't stream too much, it'll last for sure all day. Hearing aids are now finally starting to get to the waterproof. So you can wear hearing aids. I think cochlear implants are waterproof. All cochlear implant processors are waterproof. So you can be in a swimming pool doing aerobic, water aerobic without taking the hearing aids off. And that's a wonderful feature. The sweat that used to damage the receiver, the microphone, is less of a problem because the microphone and the receivers are all covered, so the sweat and the dust and the dirt are not getting into them. And the water molecules are bigger than the actual little holes that cover the microphones. Oticon now has what's called the Oticon Intent hearing aids. There are different sensors on the hearing aid, and it can determine what you really want to listen to depending on your movement of your head and if you're walking, and adjust accordingly. So if you're walking forward and you're not talking, then the hearing aids are going to set the microphone to be picking up sound all around you. On the other hand, if you're one-on-one and a person directly in front of you, you're facing forward and you're talking, then the microphone and the hearing aid will know, and the software will know, oh, the intent is for you. You want to hear the person in front and you don't want to hear anything else. And so the hearing aid will adapt to only picking up the person in front of you because that's your intent. If you're talking to two individuals and you're moving your head side to side a little bit, then the software will pick that up and it'll adapt to pick up the people on sides of you. So for the first time, the hearing aids know what you want to listen to and what you don't want to listen to. Hearing aid, every hearing aid, and I think even, and cochlear, I know cochlear implants also have a tinnitus masking program that can be added to the hearing aid or the cochlear implant. So if you have tinnitus or ring in your ears or in your head, this program can actually disguise or mask that ringing sound, making it easier for you so you're not feeling as if it's interfering or bothering you and having an emotional reaction to that tinnitus. And you can customize the tinnitus masker. You can, the type of sound you want, whether you want a noise, low level music, maybe a complete environmental sound like the river flowing or wind noise. So you can set what type of noise you want. You can adjust the intensity you want. And the goal is really not to mask that sound, but to help divert your attention away from the tinnitus. So emotionally, you're not being as impacted by the tinnitus. So this is not a hearing aid amplification feature. This is a tinnitus reduction feature. Okay. And as I said, you can cochlear implants can use that. Now, as I said before earlier, Bluetooth low energy audio is here and is going to become more and more prevalent in the environment. What you've been using all these years to, remote control to your garage door, Bluetooth to play, like, or for your wireless keyboard, etc., what's known as Bluetooth Classic. But Bluetooth low energy audio uses much less energy. So you're going to be able to do this and still be able to use your hearing aid all day long. And it's going to greatly change the world we live in. You're going to be able to take phone calls from your cell phone stream directly from the device to your hearing aid. You're going to be able to watch a TV or go to a concert or a Broadway show. And everybody in the audience, you'll be able to go to HLAA maybe in 2 years, and they won't need an induction loop. You'll have one Bluetooth low energy audio transmitter, and everybody in that audience will be able to pick up that signal. And the benefits is that the signal is like a radio. So you know how there might be one FM channel going to thousands of radios. So you're going to have one transmitter going to thousands of hearing aids and headphones, whatever's out there. You're going to so the closest industry had been neck loop, but not everybody has a T-coil, and not all public venues are going to have. But I can guarantee you, all public venues are going to use Bluetooth low energy audio, not only for people with hearing aids, but all the people who have normal hearing are going to want to hear through their headset to hear music even clearly or the speaker clear. So every venue is going to get this. And so a broadcast in what so you're going to be able to go on an airplane and watch a single laptop sending like a movie, and both people are going to be able to watch a movie. Right now, only one person at a time can pair to a laptop. But now everybody, you might have 5 people watching that laptop. You go to the airport and you'll hear, on your cell phone, you'll be able to know what gate, and you'll press what gate you are, and then you'll hear the announcement from that gate saying boarding will begin in 15 minutes. So you're going to be able to get that right to your hearing aid. You're going to have public TV watching. You'll go to a restaurant, a sports bar that has 25 TVs, and you're going to be able to pick what TV you want to listen to. There won't be any sound in the environment, but you'll be able to pick on your cell phone which TV, and you'll hear it right to your hearing aid at the level you want. And the possibility is endless. So you can have guided tours in different languages. You'll go on a tour bus and hear the person in the language of your choice. If there's a different language, it'll translate whatever. Lecture halls to be able to use silent screens, as I said, in a restaurant, theater, audio, multi-language support. And then the last thing I'll say, and then the other will, there's a couple of slides I won't share unless I have time at the end. Remote hearing aid and cochlear implant programming. What I'm referring to, rather than always having to go to your audiologist to the office, and let's say you live in a more rural area or in DC, you got to navigate 45 minutes of traffic to get your audiologist. the audiologist will be able to interface to you like in Zoom or whatever, but using your remote program software, the audiologist will be able to meet with you without you leaving your home. So you won't have to go to the office quickly, and it'll be great for office visits. So you'll be able to do a hearing aid fitting follow-up visit. So you won't have to go in and come in. You'll have the visit at home, and you'll say what your issues are, and they'll be able to adjust the hearing aid or the cochlear implant while you're at home. They'll be able to problem solve. You're saying I'm having a problem, they're going to be able to check out your hearing aids in their office, and you're going to be able to stay at home. So again, saving you this travel. And so there's all different types of remote programming. So we're going to stop sharing for here for now, because the rest of the stuff is things that you kind of know, like Zoom, etc., and cell phone apps. Okay, Russell, I'm ready for questions here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me see if I can find the chats again. Rachel, do you have the chats handy? Can we go through the list?
Yes, I can go through them. Let me scroll back to the top. There are a lot of questions. I think we answered the one about the Roger mic. There was a question about what are the cost differences between these various devices. I don't know if there's a good place to a website where we can look up the different cost.
Okay. Every hearing aid company has different levels of technology. Now, when I worked at Rochester Hearing and Speech Center director, we had 6 price points because I tried to make it as flexible as I could for customers. Most audiologists have 3 or 4 pricings, and each category has different levels of technology. The pricing that audiologists would, like the cost vary from practice to practice. So, there are prices on the internet where you can order certain devices that it's like they say this is how much you cost, but there's no audiologists involved or anything, and you can order them, and that's a certain price. But I have very strong feelings about that. I truly believe audiologists have to be involved. It's not like glasses. Hearing aids and cochlear implants are so complex. The ear organ attached to the brain is the most complex organ of any in your body. That's why human beings are the only ones who can talk. To fit a hearing aid or cochlear implant exactly the way you want is very difficult without an audiologist. So each practice has different categories of pricing, and the technology that a good practice will base it on is not how much hearing loss you have, but your lifestyle. Your lifestyle will determine what your needs are, and so what technology is recommended and what the practice charges will vary from one to the other. So I think in almost all cases you don't see the prices listed on our website, but you can certainly ask and call up. But then I can tell you, if I had my own practice, I would tell the secretary, yes, we have pricing, but without knowing which hearing aid pricing, what kind of hearing aid technology I would recommend, it doesn't really matter because I don't know what you're going to get. And then someone will say, oh, but I went to another practice and they told me that I would have to pay this much money for that hearing aid. And I would say, that may be true, and I could give you that price that we sell, but I don't necessarily agree. That's the hearing aid I would recommend for you. So you have to really, the most important thing is to find an audiology practice that truly collaborate with you, understand your need, work with you, and then really recommend the type of technology you might need.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
The next question is, as consumers, we would like to know which brands and models provide the cutting edge advances that you're talking about.
Well, first, in terms of brand, I assume brand means the company. I want you to know that the companies basically copy each other. Like one company might be ahead, bring in a new feature, and if it's a really good feature that people like, then the other company will adapt that. Now, there are some differences between brands, but they're all excellent. So now I can tell you most audiology practices or even dispensing practices, they don't sell every company. They tend to sell 3 or 4, and I'm going to be very honest for 2 reasons. One, it's very difficult to know all the company's products well. The more brands or products you sell, the less of an expert for that particular model you are. So they tend to restrict to 3 or 4. Second, there's a practical reason why the less company product you use, the more volume you purchase those devices from a particular company. The greater the volume, the less the company charges you. The less they charge you, then you can then pass on the saving to the customer and charge cheaper too. So that's one thing to know. So most companies sell 3 or 4, but they're very similar. And the third thing is some people you like the representatives more from one company than the other, so you use that. So the company products are not very different from each other. They copy, they use things, but most importantly, the audiologist or dispenser, and I'll focus on the audiologist, they're going to look at what your needs are, and at that point in time, based on the knowledge of the manufacturer, will recommend the technology and the model that best meet your needs. And so you cannot say I can't say which company or model that is the best, because, for example, let's say you don't go out very often, you basically stay at home, your back, you have a problematic back, so you don't go out and you're stuck one-on-one. Yes, that company may sell tremendous technology, but you don't need it. So there's no need to know, in your case, what is the best technology. On the other hand, there are people who are lawyers, doctors, they work in very loud industry, they work in restaurants, they need the top level technology, because what differentiates technology from the others is their ability to handle the noisy settings, the ability to allow you to better hear the talker and cut out noise. And so again, in that case, they'll recommend it at the top level. That's why I said your lifestyle is the crucial factor. So knowing the pricing, which models or whatever, is not really the most important thing. It's to find the model that best meets your needs, and then have an audiologist who knows how to determine that, who asks a lot of questions, who gives you the time so they can better understand your needs, and then knows how to fit the hearing aid, knows how to adjust them, knows how to to work with you to determine how much you're benefiting, whether you need other needs. So you need a terrific audiologist you can trust, and you need them to be able to fit the technology best to meet your needs. But that's the only way I can answer that type of question.
Thank you. The next question is, what should we consider when buying a new smartphone so it will be compatible with hearing aids?
Well, if you want a you have to figure out things. One of the things you can do is, if you get an Android phone, then you have to ask yourself, do I want to be able to pair my hearing aid to the Android phone directly? Because if not, and you're not using an intermediary, you're going to have to then buy one, and that's going to add some cost. But you can find that out by going to the internet or ask the audiologist and say, look, these are my hearing aids. I'm thinking about, getting certain types of phones. Can you guide me where I can go on the internet? Now, most people can figure it out. Took me a while, but I said, okay, I have Oticon hearing aid. I have the Oticon More hearing aids. What Samsung phones can be paired directly? And it listed, and I found my phone was not on that list. Now, had I known that before, I don't know if that would have changed my mind, but you can find that information ahead of time. With most Apple phones, I believe, from what I gather on the internet, that's not going to be an issue. So if it's important to do it directly to the phone, then just look on the internet. It'll tell you which phones are, and then you might pay an extra $100, $150 for that phone, or $200 to pair directly. If you already have, like I have, like from Oticon, an intermediary, and you're fine with that, then save and you don't need the most expensive phone, then you can go that way. So you can do a little research beforehand, and then find what you need to get to meet your needs.
Okay. Someone is asking if we can have a copy of your PowerPoint slides.
And of course you can, it'll be in a PDF form. And I've already sent Russell the copy of the handout. And so I assume after this talk, the recording and the handout will be available. Is that correct, Rachel or Russell, for everybody who attended?
Yes, that's fine. If we're allowed to share your slides, we will send them out with the recording and the transcript.
Yeah, considering I'm retired, I'm not a proprietary. I never want that proprietary. I want everybody to be
Great.
able to refer to it. It's complex, the information for some people. I want you to have it.
Thank you, Larry.
Oh, you're welcome.
Someone is asking if there's an audiology class they can take to get more updates.
I'm trying to figure out how to best answer the question. Not really. I mean, a peer mentoring group, they took like a 2-year program that allowed them to really, really get there. But I would say if you go to your local HLAA group and you say a particular topic and you want more updates, then we can always provide them. You can Russell, like let Russell know or let Judy know. I don't know who's in charge of that, or Rachel. Let them know what you want more updates on, and then you can do that. I want to do an update maybe on why hearing aids cost so much money when you get to an audiologist. That's something I've been wanting to talk about years. But if you want more update, you can do that. If you go to the HLA conference in Florida, then you'll have updates there. But not everybody can go to. It's not. Where is it this year? I don't know why it's in Florida. Is it New Orleans this year? Where's the HLA conference this year? Anybody know? Not important. If you're going, you can get the update there, but not everybody can go. I can't go because I have a lot of, rather than a consumer organization, I'm presenting hopefully in Seattle at a conference for audiologists. So it's hard to go to all these conferences. But again, share with Russell. I would gladly even do a presentation that, doing updates. Dr. Clifford on the internet, I forgot his first name, but Dr. Clifford or Hair Tracker, they have a lot updates on a lot of technology and a lot on various models. So you can do that. So that's another way to keep up to date.
Okay. Someone is asking about the app called Heard That, which is supposed to help isolate voices from background noises by using your phone. Is this an adequate substitute for a separate microphone?
I don't know what that is. Let me write that down. I'll have to look at that. I don't know that. I doubt it very much. An app by itself unable to do very much. You need the remote mic. Now, one of the things, and why am I blank on his name? The deaf musician that does a lot for National HLAA. He's in New York. Anyway, you with a cell phone, and what you can do is you can order a very directional microphone that you can attach to your cell phone that will allow you to do much better in a noisy environment. And so I don't know if this here track you get that extra microphone, so I don't know. Oh, wouldn't call that. I'll have to go to the transcript.
It's
What
called
was the name
Heard
of that app again?
Heard That.
Heard that.
HEARD.
Okay, thank you. Heard that. I will look at that maybe tomorrow or the next day, and then I will send my best analysis of what I read to Russell. And then
Okay.
I don't know if Russell can send it out to whoever's asking that question or to everybody.
Sure. I think we answered this one question, but then the next question is, do you mean to say that Bluetooth has or ultimately will replace assistive listening devices at theaters with a T-coil?
My belief is that Bluetooth low energy audio, when it's fully implemented, will definitely replace T-coil and induction loops because there are too many advantages, too many situations that it can be used. You go to a doctor's office, they're going to have Bluetooth low energy audio. It's going to be universal. So hospitals will get it, then any situation that you can think of that will come into play. And there's so many different scenarios, and every hearing aid company is gonna put it into your hearing aid, so you don't have to buy it separately. And so there's gonna be so many places, all the venues are gonna have it, the restaurants are gonna have, the airports are gonna have it. I believe if doctors, once I understand, they will have it, lawyers will have it, accountants will have it, so it's just going to be the universal standard. And so, yes, I believe that it'll be what's going to be replaced. But until it's really fully implemented, you should, like if you get a hearing aid or an implant with, with Bluetooth low energy audio, still ask for, if it's possible, to get the T-coil in there too as well, because you want that until Bluetooth low energy audio is everywhere.
Okay. A few more questions.
No problem.
Someone is saying, I have single-sided hearing loss, but if I connect with Bluetooth, I lose sound in my main hearing ear. Is there another option?
I don't know why that's happening. I would talk to the audiologist. Now, you'd have to ask a person to talk to their audiologist, but I mean, I'll give you an example. If I turn off my right hearing aid, I now have single-sided deafness, or if I take it out. But if I use my Bluetooth, I'm still gonna hear it there. Now, depending like how you're using Bluetooth, like I do things like I mute the environment and then I can only hear Bluetooth and I don't hear anything. If I'm using Bluetooth, it might change, if I'm hearing different sources, the Bluetooth and something else, that might affect it. So I can't really answer that because
Oh,
we don't have
I-
enough time. I need to know the
I'm sorry. I
scenario,
just meant that
etc.
if I connect to an audiobook or I connect to a television show, I won't get any sound from the phone or from the phone. I will only get. I thought Bluetooth only connects to the hearing aid directly, and then the device will not project any sound, which means my hearing ear will not get
Right.
any.
Now I
sound.
understand. Like, for example, I'm watching my television, my TV adapter, and it's sending a signal by Bluetooth, I believe. Then if somebody calls me on my phone, I will no longer hear the TV, and I'll be able to hear only my phone. With Bluetooth low energy audio, I believe that will not happen because it doesn't need a one-to-one pairing. I might be wrong on that aspect, but for now, that's what happened. It can only be paired to one device at a time. So when you hear one thing, the other thing shuts off. But in the future, Bluetooth low energy audio, we'll have to see. That's a very good question. I'll have to look at that to
Thank
see,
you.
can you hear multiple sources? I can tell you multiple receivers can connect to one, but I mentioned earlier in the presentation, I wasn't sure if you can hear multiple, like the phone and the TV. Although if you listen to both, it's going to be really hard for you to hear, but so be it. If you want that, you got it, then maybe. I'll find out. But that's a good question. So thank you for asking that.
Thank
I don't
you.
know the answer for sure yet,
Thank-
but I will know in the next day or two.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Larry, do you think you could share your email address in the chat just in case
I
people
don't.
have
Oh
questions?
shoot! I forgot to do that. Almost every presentation, I put my email right in front, and I didn't do it. You know what I'm going to do here? I'm disconnecting. I think for a second. I'm going to go to the front of the screen here, so you don't even have to. I'm not going to put it in the chat. You'll see it here,
While you're
and it'll be
doing that,
part
Larry,
of the.
I'm gonna
There are
share
a couple
one.
more questions, but I think we're running out of time. So maybe people
Okay.
could send you an email if they still have a
Yeah.
question.
So we'll answer whatever, or unless you want to add now. So let me go back here. Okay, I need to share the screen for a second. Okay, can everybody see? So that's my email address right there, and it'll be on the PDF, larry.medwetsky@gallaudet.edu. You can write it
And I
down.
can put it in the chat as well.
Okay, you can put that in the
That's-
chat. In the meantime, you can ask the next question in the meantime.
Okay, I think we have time for just one more.
Okay.
given what you said about Bluetooth low energy audio coming in about 3 years and how expensive hearing aids are, should we postpone buying new hearing aids, computers, and smart TVs for as long as possible?
That's a question I've been asking because I'm helping my mother-in-law to get new hearing aids. I'm telling her that if she's going to get new hearing aid, now, just so you know, they're already starting to be put in hearing aid. When I said 3 years, doesn't mean it'll take 3 years for the hearing aid to have that feature in the hearing aid. It's going to be probably by the end of the year, all the hearing aid will have that. But I'm telling my mother-in-law, I'm just being honest with you, that if the one main question I want her to ask the audiologist that she's going to be working with is whatever hearing aid she gets, I want it to have Bluetooth low energy audio in it, because I don't want her to get hearing aid that she's going to wear for 5 years and have to wait 5 years to use it. Now, if the product doesn't have, then personally I would wait another 3 months or 6 months, because this is too important to buy a set of hearing aids and not have that feature. Now, there might be another way to have it, like an additional accessory, but I don't know. I would rather, that's a question, everybody getting hearing aids, I would ask which hearing aids have Bluetooth low energy audio, because I want to be ready when it starts coming out in all these different avenues or forms. Is there one last question we can do, and then that'll be it?
I think that'll
we're-
be it for now. If Russ, do
Okay.
you want to go ahead and wrap up, Russ?
That'll be good.
I think we are approaching the witching hour. Judy, did you did not get to make the typical announcements you made, before
She's
at
going
the
to
beginning of the
send,
program.
Russ, I just sent in the chat message. Judy will send an email with all of the announcements that she was going to make because she's having some technical difficulties. So she'll
Okay.
send that by email.
Okay. All right, fine. I just wanted to thank Larry. I think this was terrific. As I indicated before, I think, it's certainly my intent, when this recording with the captions is ready, and I assume that will take somewhere between a few days and a week, to go over this material again, because there's an awful lot there, and I'm sure I missed things, and I'm sure I missed things that I shouldn't miss, and I suspect that will be the case for others. So I would certainly recommend it. You all will get a copy of the recording, and it will be on HLAA, the DC chapter's web page, as well. So I want to thank Larry. I think it was terrific. I would be remiss also if I didn't want to thank Eric. If I didn't thank Eric for the captions, I think it was as usual. It was a beautiful job. And I want to thank everybody for coming. It's been a great program. Thanks so much.
And I'll stay on, Russell,
And
for a minute
I think
after.
we can close it with that. Okay.